To give us this conversation is Chris Webo. He is a project manager at Hatching Hope Kenya, a project by Heifer International, as well as Zachary Munyambu, a poultry farmer at Kiambu. Before we joined the government spokesperson there for that presser, we were talking about access to extension services by farmers, and Zachary was giving us just his experience of how he as an individual business person accessed those, or rather found it difficult to access those services, and as well as after joining a group now it is much easier for them, but he says there are still challenges and there is more that can be done. Chris, just picking up from where Zachary left there, access to extension services, what more can be done to ensure that there is sufficient, if there is such a word really, or if there is a place to be reached like that, that there is sufficient extension services for the farmers?
Thank you so much. I think in terms of extension, personally, I would imagine or think that let's empower the farmers. There are those farmers that are exposed. Some even have retired in different professions, and they have a passion for farming. I think for me, the best thing would be to identify what I would call model farmers in the communities and empower them to provide extension, which then will be farmer-to-farmer extension. And as these model farmers are doing it, I would imagine that it will be on behalf of a producer organization or several groups that have come together, and this becomes a form of business. What do I mean? Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you empower these farmers and they're in a producer organization and say you want to increase the production of chicken, for example, so the business of this team on extension will be to provide that services to these farmers who will increase the production, and that production then will trickle, or that chicken will then be sold through the cooperative. So it becomes a business, and therefore it's able to fund that extension service, and it will then be more sustainable other than sitting back and saying you're waiting for extension that will come from the government. So it is good if the approach will be, how can we bring the farmers together, form a union, form a cooperative, and then begin to ask ourselves, what is their business case? What is it that they want to do together collectively? And then how do we make sure that this farmer is able to deliver on the targets that we have set? And therefore, we will then be looking at what is the best extension model. And that's why I'm saying then we need to look within our farmers. Who are those who have the passion? Who are those who are willing? And perhaps just train them a little bit, equip them a little bit, facilitate them, and then they're able to reach all those farmers within the community, but at a cost. And this is how this cost can be done. You know, when you're looking at poultry, for example, and I'm looking at 1,600 farmers, it's not easy for an extension person to reach all this. But if I have this who have been trained in extension, they reach those farmers, and these farmers, when the poultry is ready for market, they bring them to the cooperative, and the cooperative sells on their behalf and receives a commission, and that is a commission that then will support and facilitate this extension farmer to reach other farmers. So it becomes more of a revolving or a sustainable process. And I think that will be a better approach other than saying we will wait and we will be supported. And you look at it from a commercial perspective, that then becomes a cost which is absorbed by the producer organization, but at the end of the day, this cost is subsidized by the revenues that are going to be generated by the increased production of poultry, which then is marketed, and the eggs.
This Hatching Hope project, it has been implemented in Mexico and India, is it?
It's being implemented in Mexico, India, and Kenya. We started in 2019. And our first phase is going to end next year in 2022.
Right. So I get that the dynamics are different in these particular countries.
Yes.
But could you just give us maybe some success stories or models that have worked in the other regions that you're dealing in?
What we have learned, of course, from across India and Mexico is the farmers have come together and formed cooperatives in India and in Mexico, and those cooperatives are doing what I would call business And this business is driven by the fact that they have a target. They have a business plan. So it's not just producing, but it's something that is targeted, something that is, the team has sat together and said, yes, this is our target. Producing several hundreds of eggs and chicken. And then working backwards and saying, how do we do it? And that's why now the issues of extension comes in, the issues of governance in terms of management comes in, and the issues now of market, for example, comes in. And the way it's done is that all the value chain actors are brought together. So it's a complete system that when you need a day-old chicken, you have a supplier, credible supplier. When you need fertilizers, when you need feeds, you have a credible feed miller who has been introduced to the farmer cooperative. When you have an off-taker, when you have a financial institution, it's all kind of organized. And there is an understanding, what I would call a memorandum of understanding, and a commitment that this is business. And if you have to recover this cost, then you need to look at all this to ensure that there is credible access to day-old chicks, because you're not going to continue doing the normal road runners and look at that as business. So you need to have a credible source, and this is what we're trying to scale out and model. And this is going on in India, is going on in Mexico. And it's the same model we're saying that in Kenya, if we take this, then we'll be moving a notch higher from just sitting back and saying, we're going to produce chicken. But at the same time, as we're talking about producing chicken, we are getting eggs that we don't even know the source. We're putting them in an incubator, and the kind of breed or day-old chick we are getting is of inferior quality. So if you're looking at a market and you need to feed it for a certain period of time because you're doing business, then you take longer before this day-old chick is able to reach the market size. So that is the kind of approach we're looking at.
Right. Zachary, as you listen to Chris giving these suggestions or models that they're looking to implement in the country, you are in the business. First of all, your comments on the farmer-to-farmer extension service model, as well as what he said now about ensuring that production is increased and maybe even made to be more efficient. What are your views on that?
Yeah, very good. I think what he was trying to say is that relying on experts from the government might not be the best. Like in our group, we have farmers who have been in this business for more than 30 years. And I think it is only good to give them a chance to educate and train those who are getting in. And at one time, Chris mentioned about the retirees. Somebody at 60 or 70 comes with some capital. She's not very sure where to start. Okay, the experts are not available, but the farmers are there for such a person. It's good that we engage them. When they form a group, we identify those who are experienced, those who have more, who have done the poultry in a better way, so that we can now get something from the group and give them maybe something small for maintainer. Something else is about the group. When you are doing your own, when you are having your own experience, some of these diseases that are there, you just find that they are just there because of mismanagement at the farm. And there is something that we call biosecurity, and those farmers who are experienced can tell you that that one is history, is no longer in their farms. But those who are getting in, youths and these old people, they also need to be visiting other farmers and see what they are doing. So on that, I want to support that farmers can do it for themselves. Yes.
Right. Let's talk about the issue of market systems development in Kenya. Chris, if you could just give us an overview of what it takes to develop these systems to a point where we can say now we have good systems that work.
Thank you. the whole aspect of market systems development is not an overnight thing. Because one of the things you need to identify who are these critical actors, for example, in poultry value chain. And looking at it from a business perspective, then you'll be asking, what is a win-win for the private sector, if I may call it, such that if you bring in, say, a financial institution, they're also looking at what is it in terms of generating revenue, for example, reaching a wider market, or rather reaching a wider scope, and you say our client base is this much. So it's something that, what we do at Haifa International is we design our projects from a market perspective. We look at what is the market demand, who are those that are critical to be involved, and then when now we begin to implement, we have now brought them together. And basically, this is to just make sure that if you are in need of a particular service or a particular input, you know who to go to, other than starting from the production side and you don't know how the market is going to be, and you don't know who else are going to be involved. So one of the things we do is that we do a comprehensive study to understand, if you look at poultry, what are the key challenges? And if you want to address, of course you may not be able to address all of them, but you want to say, if I want to unlock poultry production in this country, for example, what are those key issues that I must consider from a market perspective, such that when now you delve into the process, you are working as partners, and you are bringing more partners together to seize opportunities that exist in the value chain. And I was just giving you examples of the day-old chicks, for example, financial institutions, for example, the buyers, because we don't look at a situation whereby we want to produce and encourage production, yet at the end of the day, we're not looking at how will this chicken end up on a plate somewhere in a hotel or somewhere. So that's why I say, for us, we look at it from the market side and then begin to be able to say, who can we bring on board as a partner? And as we bring on board as a partner, you also say, this is what I want to offer, and this is the opportunity I see in this. And for example, if you look at the financial institutions, they say, if you bring me 40,000 farmers, one of the things I will ask them to do is to open an account before I can even give them credit. So basically, you're already increasing the client base of the financial institution, and that becomes a plus for them. When you look at issues of now capacity building in terms of financial management, in terms of record keeping, the staffs of the bank will find it very easy and very attractive to come now and do that kind of training, because you already have a group that is organized, you already have systems in place, and therefore as they come in, they find it easy to run with you in the process, and then you find you going together. So basically at the end of the day, we say who is to be involved, such that they're brought on board as a partner, and then now you move forward. That's basically what we call a market systems development. So if you're looking at, just as I've given financial institutions, you would also be looking at how, if I were to create dissemination awareness, for example, on poultry consumption, who else should I bring on board? Who is the buyer? So that when you begin the process, you're not beginning and then you begin to say, well, we'll think of where we sell this midway. No, you're already beginning with the buyer in mind, and the buyer is also doing his own projection and saying, yes, after this period, I expect this number of birds, I expect this number of eggs, and therefore this is the amount of money I need to set aside, so that when it comes in, I'm able to offset, pay the farmers, and then be an encouraging motivation such that now the farmers can say, yes, we have a consistent market, we can consistently supply, and they're also able now to do their own projections. Say, if I invest in this, these are the margins I'm going to get, and I can use this for another thing or maybe another need at the household level.
Right. Zachary, in your experience, you mentioned WhatsApp as a marketing tool. Is there more that you do, and what is your approach? Do you start from production to market, or do you first think about the market, then you produce for the market that you have?
That one is a very good question. I think most of the farmers in Kenya have such a challenge. They start with production. Actually, most of them don't know where they shall sell their products. That has been a problem, and that's why that was one of the reasons as to why we were to come together, form the cooperative, so that we can be able to sell on their behalf. Because currently now, the group now, or the management of that group is looking for the market. So we want to come to a place or to a time whereby the farmer will now be doing the production in the farm and increase it so that we can be able now to sell on their behalf. We have another one big challenge, because right now we have been crying that we don't have a good market for our eggs. When we came together and we started posting in the Facebook and the internet and the like, we got a lot of buyers. And currently, I want also to challenge my fellow farmers that we have a buyer who is ready to take 5,000 trays per day. And I think now that one is becoming a problem, because we are not able to produce the same. Either the farmers are they are selling, okay, assuming that we expect you to produce 100 trays per day, you realize that once the group or once the cooperative looks for a good buyer, and we have kind of signed a contract with this farmer that we shall be taking his eggs from the farm, you realize later that the same farmer whom we expected to give you 100 trays, start giving you like 70 trays, he has already sold 30 trays. So now it becomes quite a big challenge on that. So I request, or I challenge the farmers to start looking for, to have such groups, because leave the management to look for the marketers. For the market, and the farmers do the farm, and of course increase, because you can only assume, or you can only get profit if you produce more. Because now, if you have 100 birds and somebody else is having like 20,000 birds, the labor force or the time that's taken at the farm is almost the same. So we challenge them to increase the production while we do we look for the markets for them.
Right.
Yes.
Chris, as Zachary has brought it out, there is the market and there are farmers who are ready to produce, but there's definitely a gap in between there. So just give us an overview of, say, the role of technology in even connecting these from the production side to the market side.
Thank you. One of the things, and this is what we were discussing yesterday in the launch, is how do we make use of technology? And this is because there is production, there is somebody seated somewhere, and there is now lack of connectivity. And that's why I said that when you're looking at market systems development, then that is the opportunity. You need to bring that buyer on board, such that you're able to work together. But however, not that withstanding, what we're trying to do in this project is embracing technology in terms of we're looking at how, for example, how do we aggregate the demand for feeds? And what we are saying is we're investing in technology such that a farmer in the village will be able to send an SMS to the officials of the cooperative and say, this is the number of bags they need for feeds. And at the cooperative, by use of technology, they are able to collect the requirements and then consolidate it at the end of the day and then now share with the feed miller. And the feed miller will tell you, if I don't have an order for 5 or 10 metric tons, there's no way I will dispatch my truck or my lorry because it's not economical. So that is how we're trying to make use of technology, that the farmers can be able to consolidate by sharing an SMS with the producer organization management, and they consolidate that, and therefore they're able to get the volumes that are required and send that to the feed miller. Similarly, in terms of markets, we have identified what I call an off-taker. And what now we're trying to work with this off-taker is how can he consistently be able to absorb the number of chicken that are produced. And one of the things we're also saying that as an off-taker, how also are we helping this buyer to do value addition? So one of the things as a project we're saying, if we engage with this buyer, we would want to say, at this buyer in terms of capital, in terms of investment, where are they? And what is it that they are lacking so that they are also able to increase or their buying capacity and therefore be able to absorb the chicken produced by our farmers. So it becomes like a pull effect. So what we're trying within this project is basically to make sure that all these actors, where we see value, and where we think they're going to add value to this project, we bring them on board.
Right.
And through that, we believe that information then will be able to trickle to the farmers, because then use of technology and especially use of the phone through SMS.
All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we are coming to a close of this conversation, and in just 30 seconds, I will give each one of you about 30 seconds to give us your closing remarks. Zachary, let's start with you.
Okay, thank you, Betty. I want to thank you most sincerely and welcome all the farmers to do this poultry farming. It's good. It has good returns if it is well managed. Then the other thing that I would also request the government to do is to have inter-county relationships, because as you know, we have a big challenge of our raw materials. We source almost all of our raw materials which we use to produce our feeds from other countries. So I challenge the governors in our country to have, for example, a very good place like Kirinyaga. They can produce a lot of maize, which we go for from Tanzania and Uganda. We have places like Kiambu, we have places like Machakos, where we can get a lot of soybeans and cotton. But you realize that almost every raw material, we go for it from Tanzania. And during this time that we are having COVID-19, we have a lot of challenges at the borders. We have a lot of challenges. Either there is a long queue, and once you order your items from Uganda, at the border, you realize that truck may be stuck there for quite some time. So we request the government to come the government, the intercontinent, the inter-counties to have such kind of an arrangement. Otherwise, I want to thank you most sincerely for giving us this chance, and we welcome every one of us to do the good farming. Thank you.
Karibu sana. Chris, your closing remarks?
Thank you so much. I want to say there is a great opportunity for investment in poultry production. Statistics indicate that we have roughly about 57.7 million birds. And out of that, 46 million is indigenous. So that means that we still have an opportunity. If you look at the demand, it's quite a lot. Basically, we have a deficit in terms of the chicken we produce. So I want to say there is a great opportunity that exists for the private sector, for other actors to come in and plug in with us, even in this project. Number two, I also want to say that there have been challenges of issues of policy, issues of legislation, but we do understand that we're operating in an open market economy, and there have been a lot of imports coming in from our neighboring countries, which has again destabilize the market prices. And that is something, as our farmer Zachary has said, I think the government needs to see how do we protect and nurture our farmers, grow our farmers, so that they are also able to earn a decent living out of poultry production. Right. That is what I'll say. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That is Chris Webo, the project manager of Hatching Hope Kenya, and Zachary Munyambu, a poultry farmer from Kiambu, who also is the director of a poultry farming cooperative in Kiambu County. We have been talking about matters poultry farming. We sure hope that you've learned something, and if you are in the poultry farming sector, you know what to do from now on to increase production on your farm as well as your fellow farmers.